Hope all was well. Episode number 5, man. We rocking and rolling. We a month in, man. So it's Our Culture, HBCU. Of course, HBCU stands for Homecoming, Brings Culture and Unity, man. We all about giving people our flowers, all about supporting our people and highlighting. All HBCUs is doing a good job, man. So here today, we got the bishop in the house. Unique story because he went to 2 HBCUs. He ain't flunk out of them, you know what I'm saying? But he went to 2 of them. So he went to Bethune-Cookman and FAMU. So Bishop, tell us about yourself, what you do professionally, and what led you to go to 2 HBCUs.
Hey, man. Thank you, Mario, man. Thank y'all for having me. I appreciate it. So yeah, man, professionally, I'm a pharmacist. I got that degree from FAMU. And
now you were a street pharmacist or like in a hospital pharmacist?
Hey, man, whatever the license applies to, man. It's not too different in some instances, man, unfortunately. But yeah, no, man, I work in the home health division of a hospital here in Jacksonville. And yeah, so that was my path to FAMU, wanted to be a pharmacist. Bethune-Cookman, I got my biology degree there. So I did 4 years there. I went there first out of undergrad. You know, I live in Jacksonville. A unique story. I don't know how deep you want me to go yet. But I live in Jacksonville and Daytona's in close proximity, but I was born in Tallahassee and my father lives there and he works at FAMU. He worked at FAMU for 30 something odd years. So I was raised a Rattler, you know? So, I mean, I have pictures at my home at the FAMU homecoming, being held by Muhammad Ali, at home. And my mama's in the picture, you know. She set that up. I'm 3 years old. I'm like, who is this dude, man? But so I was definitely, my dad, you know, he's all Rattler, you know. My mom went to Edward Waters in Jacksonville and got her master's at FAMU. So she's part Rattler. So she was a little more, you know, Daytona closer to home. You know, they gave you more money to go there. Because you got to think, man, FAMU was College of the Year. You know, they were a Time Magazine College of the Year, right?
For real.
Harvard ahead of everybody because they had more, I guess they call it national merit semifinalists than any other school. I think that's African Americans and how they score on like the PSAT or something like that. So long story short, they was like number 2 on my list because they weren't gonna give me no money because they had so many times. They was getting the best of the best, man. They were out dueling Harvard for the top Black students in America. So who
your allegiance to? I'm just curious. Like what paraphernalia is heavily at your crib, like you put on to walk around the house in? Who your allegiance? Are you
right? Good question, man. So you know they play a game at the end of the year, the Florida Classic, every year.
Okay.
And, my politically correct answer is I never lose. You know, so you know it's man. I owe a lot to both schools, so you know it's hard to say, but at least on camera. You know what I'm saying? I probably got a favorite child, but you can't tell your other children about it.
Look, man, fam is so interesting. So what you think about the girl that took the new picture by the monument?
Wow. Yeah.
Did you see that?
I heard about it. You know, my wife ain't let me look at that, but I heard about it.
Hey, look, let's just say it was well represented, but it was distasteful. It actually was like, she had a back turn, so you kind of saw side.
Right.
She had a back turn in. She had a cap on. It had snakes coming out of it. So it was kind of covering her backside. You saw the heels.
Right.
And it was kind of like, it was kind of dope, but had she not been by the Rattler, maybe it would have been like, okay, that's cool.
Right.
But by the Rattler, it was kind of like, oh, it's looking like that's what HBCUs do. And these students, I got to give it to them. They super creative, man. Like, I don't think anybody in my class ever thought to do something like that on the steps at TSU or, you know, in front of the shield of TSU, you know. But it was just like, wow, man, like these kids are super bold, you know. But like Lamario said, like her followers probably went up and she probably got an OnlyFans page now. Who knows, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, you're right, man. And I think she's a smart girl from what I understand. I forgot what she got maybe had a master's degree in some area. So, I mean, some people say all publicity is good publicity. I don't know if I agree with that, but, you know, ask Will Smith. But
Yeah, that part.
But yeah, I mean, it probably wasn't something that I would want my daughter. It's not anything I want my daughter to do, but to each his own. It brought some conversation. But the news cycle is so short, nobody's really talking about that now. They talking about, oh man, what happened to FAMU in that game? So
true.
You put your business out there, no more. You put your business out there for eternity, and on to the next. Man, there was one guy. His name was Lewis Rogers. One of my frat brother, one of my line brothers' stepdad. Didn't work for Bethune, but he was just a guy that wanted to give back. So he basically went to all the schools and kind of recruited for the school. And that's how I found out about it, me and some of my friends. And we got, they were giving out scholarships for it. The money was in science. I had no plan to be a biology major. I didn't really do that great in biology in high school, but that's where the money was. And come to find out, I was taking like advanced courses at Stanton. So when I got to Bethune, it was the same class, right? So, I kind of, and that taught me lesson number one is that it's not how smart you are, it's that you see the material first, go there. My dad, that was like an L for him though.
I bet.
Probably. Cause he was Mr. Rattler, right? I mean, he was like, he worked on the campus for years, with Dr. Humphreys and, but, what can he say? It's kind of like if you're a FSU fan, but your kid gets a full ride to Florida, you got to get you some Gator paraphernalia, Yeah. That's how that went, man. So my HBCU story kind of started in that way, just in terms of, who was showing me love at the time. HBCUs have always been important to my family. I got a couple of relatives that went to Tennessee State, right? So my grandfather's cousin, actually my dad's first cousin, she went to Tennessee State. As a result, her daughters went to Tennessee State. So I have some family that went that way. My grandfather went to Tuskegee, and this goes back. So my grandfather was born in 1909. My grandfather was a student of George Washington Carver at Tuskegee.
For real?
Absolutely, yeah. So that's why I say my HBCU story goes back, man. I can't say, I'm poor and nothing wrong with that. I mean, we wasn't rich, but we weren't poor, and I can't say I was the first one in my point is I can't say I was the first one to go to college in my family. So my granddaddy, he was the OG. He had to leave Alabama at the age of 14. No, I'm sorry, corrected. He had to leave the state of Mississippi at the age of 14 to go to high school. Tuskegee also had a high school. So he left home at 14 because he couldn't get education in Mississippi, not even a high school education. And it was the same way in Florida. But he went to Alabama and then he just stayed there for college, worked his way through, worked at the VA where they did a lot of I don't know if you heard of Tuskegee experiments. So he worked at the VA. He worked as a truck gardener. It was like a gardener at the VA, worked his way through school. That's HBCUs were ingrained in me at a young age.
So I heard you say frat. What frat you part of?
Yes, sir. First and foremost, I'm a child of God. I gotta do it like the rappers on the awards, man. I gotta put that there first. But I'm an Alpha Phi Alpha, member of Alpha Phi Alpha.
You play as undergrad? I play as
undergrad at Bethune.
Oh man, I'm pretty sure that was a cool experience.
That was, man. That was like a rock star experience, man. We came out. You know how when your bros are off the yard.
Yeah, I came back on line that was off the yard for a couple of years. So
man, that coming out of yours, I'm sure was like you thought you was in the Beatles or something, man.
Listen, the Alpha Theta come out shows are still the thing to see.
I believe it.
Man, it's an experience. I can only imagine, man, what it was like. And I like hearing other people's experience that went to, small HBCUs, big HBCUs, because people that I meet that didn't go to HBCUs, they like, oh, how many was on your line? I'm like 22. They like, how? I'm like, I went to a big HBCU. Like, you can't turn everybody down. Like, you got interest meetings of 350 people. Like,
yeah,
we accepting about 25 people, and
absolutely
25, like it's about 50 that's mad about it, but try again next year, So absolutely. Yeah, that's cool to hear, man.
But that was a great experience, man. I learned a lot doing that, and I'm glad I did that undergrad at Bethune because grades definitely dropped. Not only when you're online, but I guess the statute of limitations up. So yeah, not only when you're online, but afterwards, and the party planning. It was a job, man. You're like a party promoter. You're planning, events,
Holding the frat.
Yeah, man. Everybody want to be the best. Everybody want to be the SGA president from their frat and had the men's senate on lock in case your boys get in trouble in their frat. So it becomes like a mafia thing almost, man. But it was a great experience, man. I got lifelong friends, man, and we still are connected, and line brothers and brothers that brought us in, and people that supported us along the way. It's pretty awesome, man. So wouldn't have traded that for anything, man.
I think at Bethune-Cookman, like that was your favorite experience was crossing, or what you think your favorite experience was at Bethune-Cookman?
Yeah, that definitely was one of them, man. But the people, man, the people that pour into you at small black college. It's the guy mentioned, Lewis Rogers. He really didn't have to get us in school. When I got in school, it's interesting. A guy named Herbert Thompson was my biology advisor. I still talk to him to this day, and it's crazy. It's kind of like one of them things. You remember that movie with Denzel, Training Day, and the Caucasian cop was the essays was about to put it to him, about to kill him on the toilet, but then they held up because he had saved a little girl that was their niece or something like that, right? Yep. So anyway, Bethune was the precursor to FAMU. Like they say, well, when you wanted to make money, I went to FAMU. But basically, when I wanted to get a wife, Bethune helped me out because my advisor at Bethune was my wife's dad's roommate in college. And her dad was very particular, man, about who she dated, man. And the fact I went to Bethune and I knew his roommate, me and him were tight. Me and his best friend he was in the science department. We were tight. It helped me a lot in that regard. So I would say that. But my best experience there was the people that poured into me, man, because the program I was in, it was a science program, FGAMP. And, man, all they did was try to prepare us, for the next class. 30 of us caught a bus, went to Bethune about 2 weeks after we graduated from high school, and just started taking classes over the summer to kind of prep us for the year. Same teachers, calculus teachers and pre-calculus to try to, get us ready. And they were very hard on us, man, but it really paid off. FAMU had the same program, and so did FIU. It was called the Florida Georgia Alliance for Minority Participation in Science, Engineering, and Mathematics. But anyway, they gave us scholarship money, and they prepared us to be in that world, to think like a scientist. So I'm forever grateful to them for pouring into us. And spiritually, man, you got to think. At Bethune, they used to fine you for walking on the grass when I went there. Like, you know what I'm saying? If you got off the sidewalk and you were on the grass, they could fine you. If they caught you cursing, they could fine you. I don't know if they do that anymore, but they preach discipline like that. That came from Dr. Bethune, herself back in the day, But yeah, so it was a good experience. But yeah, she probably couldn't have got away with that at Bethune. But yeah, and another thing is that we had chapel as a freshman, you had to go to chapel once a week. So you had to go, and I think they still have that. They got a chapel there. They have a campus pastor, and the freshmen have to go to chapel every week.
So they have a Christian school?
Yeah, you know what it is? It's largely influenced by the United Methodist Church. So they're major donors there. So, but it's kind of you see the 14 karat gold dancers at halftime. You're like, well, it's a little backsliding going on there, man.
You're like, just cover up a little bit. Don't show too much leg.
Yeah, so that's part of it. And then they had another thing. They had this thing called the pre-dawn ball, which was so non-Christian. Everybody was dressed up in lingerie, and it started like at midnight, what I'm saying? It went all night, kind of thing in the gym. So it was.
Time. So like at TSU, you called those pajama jammy jails, but like they was like parties, but y'all had that like actual at the school.
At the school. In the gym. In the gym. I think they still have it, man. And then they have chapel the next day, So keep the party going, man.
That sounds wild.
But it was real great. It's only like 3,000 students, and it's like a big high school. Everybody kind of knew everybody, but it was a good experience. Now FAMU was a little bigger than that. They had about 10,000 students back then, but within my program, it was like I knew everybody. We were it was more like graduate school for me. So, but yeah, I still have some lifelong friends in that program. Some people that poured into me. Guy named Michael Thompson. He was a clinical coordinator there, man. And he, for the type of pharmacy I do, so I do like a home health type of pharmacy. We do like, basically it's like a hospital pharmacist, but we set up a hospital room at your house and the nurse will come out and give you IVs and things of that nature. So I didn't know nothing about that. And this guy, he kind of, and I was like an average student, and this brother, he just, I guess he trusted me, and he had me do a rotation at his site. He worked for the school, but he also had a residency program at this place called American Home Patient. And he got me on doing that type of pharmacy. And I've been doing it ever since. And he got a lot of people on like that. So Michael Thompson definitely was another name that sticks out at FAMU. And a lot of other people too.
The process at FAMU to graduate to get your master's, that's like a fast track. That's like a 5-year program. So how does that process work? How are you able to get through so many classes so quick?
It's a 6-year program to get what they call now your PharmD. Used to be you could be a pharmacist in 5 years, but they tried to make it more clinical and kind of like in physical therapy they're doing now. So even in physical therapy, they have like a doctorate component. So they have you doing more clinical rotations, more rounds in hospitals, things like that. To try to give you more options than just doing retail pharmacy, working at Walgreens, CVS, that's good money, but, longevity, you get burnt out really quick. So it's good to have options. You can do what I'm doing. You can work in a hospital, home health, what I'm doing. You can work in industry, like at a pharmaceutical company, maybe not being a drug rep, but giving the drug rep information on the drugs. Like they have these people called MSLs. And they're like scientific liaison. So if the drug rep goes out to the doctor's office, certain things they can talk about, certain things they can't, they'll bring the pharmacist in later to come and go over like the studies and stuff like that. So they try to make you think more scientifically and more clinically, but yeah, they're trying to expand it to make you just a pill pusher, more than just a street pharmacist.
So when I think of like a pharmacist, I think of like a person like your Walgreens or CVS or Walmart. So I ain't think like those jobs existed. So you can be like a pharmaceutical, because I know like they make money, pharmaceutical salespeople. Like, so you can be a pharmacist and then be a pharmaceutical salesperson, or that's not the same.
You can be a salesperson if you want to, or you can, but more often the pharmacist is a person that the salesperson goes to if a doctor has a question about a drug. So you're like a liaison between the pharmacy rep and the physician.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, you can, so that's a big thing. And then you have pharmacists like, so if you go in the hospital and you ever peeked over and you see where they keep all the patient records, they have these EMRs or medical records or whatever. So the big company used to be Cerner. So where I work, that's what we use. Mayo used to use that. So that maybe St. B's might still use it. There's another company now coming in called Epic. But long story short, there's a field called informatics. And you don't have to be a pharmacist. You can be a nurse. You can be whatever. But the informatics team, they get people from each discipline to kind of say, hey, what does the pharmacist think about this software? And what do you think we should improve on it? Same thing with the nursing aspect, So they have pharmacists that do nothing but that as well. Just kind of give information on, hey, this computer system needs to do drug profiles a little more efficiently, be able to check for interactions more efficiently, need to be able to write notes or write the discharge meds better, things like that. So there are other ways, it's not just Walgreens, Eckers and things of that nature. It's branching out. It's academics too. I mean, you got to have teachers at your pharmacy schools. FAMU is big on research. People don't realize when they were thriving, man, they were doing all kind of research. They had a guy named Dr. Henry Lee, man, and this guy was getting patents after patent after patent, because I was in a program called MBRS, and we was in there working on rats and mice and injecting stuff and doing stuff with DNA. And then they had a big conference in DC where all the people came together from different schools. So yeah, but you think about it now, a lot of that funding has been taken away, right? Because a lot of your drug research and whatnot used to come from colleges, right? What does Dr. Fauci work for? The National Institute of Health. They started cutting their funding. So the private sector is your Pfizer's, your Merck's is kind of trying to do all the research. But at one time, a lot of that stuff was done in college. It probably still is, but not as much because the funding is being cut. But yeah, black schools play a major role. But I'll tell you this, in the state of Florida, when Jeb Bush was the governor, they had this tier system they implemented. And I think it's still in place. And FAMU was College of the Year, but Jeb Bush wanted them to be at the lowest tier in terms of research, right? People marched, me and my dad marched because they were basically pulling FAMU's funding. They're saying, hey, you guys are last in terms of research. Florida's first, UCF second, and y'all come third. But at the time, like I said, they were College of the Year. So the big chant was from College of the Year to bottom of the tier. Because that's how they aligned it, man. And so, I mean, people been doing that kind of politics for a long time, and they're still doing it. They're just more vocal about it now, Yeah.
College of your bottom of that. That sound like a rapper right there.
It does, man.
A black person made that slogan, didn't they?
I'm sure Al Sharpton had something to do with that. He in Tallahassee, they had something to do with that, man.
I have a friend who went to pharmacy school.
Yeah.
I remember she applied, and I went to her graduation. And this joker ain't passed the pharmacy exam yet. She done failed a couple times. So I'm curious to know, how was that pharmacy exam?
Man, it's a beast, man. It's always been, and you got to think they're coming out with new drugs every year. Right. So people taking it now is harder than when I took it, and the people that took it maybe before me, they didn't have as many drugs. I mean, it was always hard, but I feel for these kids now. And then they got tests now where I think they don't really have, how you got A, B, C, and E. Right. They got some junk called All That Apply. Well, there might be 3 right answers and 2 wrong answers, and you got to pick the 3 right answers. You know what I'm saying? Man. So they didn't have that when I was taking the NAPLEX, but it was still hard. But it's harder now. So yeah, it's crazy, man. So I mean,
did you pass it out the gate? You passed it one take like Jay-Z in the booth?
Man, you put me on the line. You put me on the spot now, man. I got students watching this, man. My daddy, if he figure out the computer, gonna be watching. My kids gonna be watching this. Hey,
you said, "Don't worry about it. I passed it."
but you know what? I thanks be to God I did, man. I was blessed in that regard. But I'll tell you this though, man. The older generation tries to say, "Oh, well, we studied harder and we worked harder, and that's why we passed." Not true. So there was a dude. I'm about to just. There was a guy from the University of Georgia, right, who used to do prep classes for all the schools, right? And he would come around and give you a prep class, right? So little belongs to us. Basically, he would give you a packet and say, okay, this might be similar to what some of the things you might see, blah, blah, blah. So we studied that. We studied a bunch of other things too. But at the end of the day, this man had to go. He had to leave his business. He had to leave the University of Georgia because they said it was too close to the exam. Evidently, it's one of them things where he was probably getting, people that came out to test to say, hey, just tell me what you remember. Yeah. And that kind of thing. So they actually shut the dude down, man. And ironically, after that happened, the grades went down. And they want to blame it on the students. So,
the grades went down. Oh man!
Between you, me, and the fence post,
they shut down the card.
Hey man, they pulled the plug, brother. They pulled the plug, man. So. But yeah, man. So I try to encourage our students to say, "Hey, man, you're the smartest students I've ever had. You guys work harder than we did, and you have a harder challenge in front of you. But you're gonna be ready, man." And the other thing with FAMU, I'll be honest, is that a lot of other schools they look at us as a retail machine in terms of. For a long time, most of our students took the Walgreens, the CVS jobs, because that's where the money was. A lot of us have a lot of loans and things of that nature. And so they just kind of, when it comes time to getting these hospital jobs, they kind of discount us a lot of times. And we don't have a lot of the same opportunities. I guess the residency program. So now to work in a hospital, you have to do an extra year. And, we don't always get that chance. So when I say the brother gave me a chance to do his residency program, I got the experience. And then it was easy to get a job in something, specialized. So
for a person coming right out of college, like that's like the highest paying job for pharmacists is like the retail jobs.
At one time it was, right. And then it kind of went down. So I'm gonna tell you how the dope game and the drug pharmacy game were parallel. So salaries actually went down when the opioid epidemic went away. If you know, so during the opioid epidemic, I know some people that, had run-ins with the law, pharmacists or things like that. But it was a really gray area, right? Because you'd have a physician writing prescriptions. And if you're a pharmacist and you just get the prescription, you may not know that it's that a guy has a pill mill. He's a real doctor. It's a valid prescription. But now if you get 10 people or 30 people in one day, it's kind of a pattern, right? So, and sometimes, and what happened was some pharmacists were in cahoots maybe with some doctors, and they were but so what happened? They start counting your inventory and, why are you buying this much? And, the feds, when they come, they look at everything. So, anyway, but after that happened and that it kind of got busted down, they didn't need pharmacists as much, but now, ironically, with the we might be implicated in this whole COVID thing because who's giving out a lot of the shots now? The vaccinations, right?
Oh, the pharmacists.
I was about to ask you about that. What you thought about this whole COVID thing, the shots, the boosters.
Right.
You've been in school with research prior to this. I'm curious to hear. Dr. Fauci. He's been talking this noise for a long time, but I'm curious to hear from a black doctor. What's your take on it?
I studied, I researched it. I didn't get it right away, but I did get it, man. I got the shot, I got the booster, because at the end of the day, man, when I start seeing the people saying you don't have to get it in politics, and then you find out all of them got it, what are they hiding, man? Do they want us to die? So you got to wonder why behind the why sometimes, other than that, the science is there, the numbers are there. I don't know. Way more people died from COVID than died from the shot. I don't know why Trump got the shot and didn't tell nobody he got the shot. Did DeSantis ever announce if he got the shot? But I'm sure he got the shot. The highest vaccinated population is like in Jacksonville is the affluent areas like Ponte Vedra.
It's politics, man.
He's like, podium out of breath. I'm like, boy, this lungs ain't no good today. That's a little cold.
That fool darn near died. He got experimental drugs and had the nerve to wear his mask, take the mask off like he was like the Messiah.
Right. They got a program in Florida where they give you free monoclonal antibodies if you're in a certain type of group, like if you're at risk. We give out free COVID antibodies. Our nurses go out, give them in the home. And I understand, the mask is natural. It's not comfortable, and things of that nature. And we don't wear them everywhere. We'll be honest. We go outside, you try to take, but you do the best you can. But when we didn't know anything, it's kind of all we had. We didn't have vaccines at one time. We didn't have, we didn't know where it was coming from. People thought it was on the ground, got Lysol.
And no food.
Leaving shoes outside the house.
Yeah, Lysol and grocery bags and everything.
Yeah, man. So people
bro,
take their clothes off in the garage, So.
Bro, hey, look, that's fact. Like when it first came out, bro, I went to Amazon. It was like, first off, Lysol was just way too expensive, man. I bought like a 24 pack of Lysol. It was like $115, bro. Wow. Like, man, y'all taxing, but you ain't know those.
At least you could find it though. You couldn't find the stuff. A lot of times, people making stuff, man. Making bleach spray, put bleach,
making stuff.
Yeah, put bleach in an old Lysol can and try to spray bleach. Trump said you can drink it, put it in the vein.
Sanitizer that smelled so bad. I was like, is this tequila? I was like, this hand sanitizer smell like tequila and some bad alcohol. Like,
man,
what is this? But hey, I'm gonna use it. I had a gallon of it.
Right. If we looked at this 10 years ago, you'd be like, ain't no way. They got beer companies saying we ain't gonna sell beer. We just gonna make hand sanitizer. We just gonna put our alcohol in a bottle and make hand sanitizer. You can't make this stuff up, man.
50 years from now, they'd be like, man, what was they thinking, man? Like, yeah.
When I was coming up,
Pharmacists as a whole, how many African American pharmacists is it, and how many male? Because like when I think of pharmacists, I go to like the retail stores. I don't see a lot of us, saying it's usually Caucasian. So like percentage wise, how many African American males is it, and how many African Americans in general is it in the pharmacy sector?
Yeah, that's a good question, man. Just going by my class and the students that come through, because I have students where I am that rotate with us, man, we might get one guy out of the 12 months. We might get one guy a year, one brother a year at that.
Damn.
So I would say just doing rough math, 1 out of 10, 1 out of 12, something along those lines.
Wow.
Yeah, it's not a lot. It's not a lot at all, man. That's why, schools like FAMU, Howard, are so important. Hampton, I think Hampton has a pharmacy program, because there's not a lot of African Americans, period, but definitely not a lot of African American males for sure.
So why do you think that is?
I was just wondering that. I was about to ask you that. And I just think so many things have been set up in this country that kind of work against us, that they're already there, man. You know what I'm saying? You really don't have to. It's like a ship that's going straight. You really don't have to do too much. It's on course the way it is. So it's so many layers to it. I mean, when you think about the penal system, even back in the 90s in the Clinton era, man, and before Clinton with Reagan with the crack epidemic. I mean, they just wiped so many of us out, man. That it's so many things. What specifically other than just crime? And I guess it starts with the home for one.
Yeah.
But I mean, it can happen in spite of that, as we can all attest to. So I think it's up to us now moving forward to try to, and Mario, you do a lot of work, you guys, just be an example at your station where you are, and being a good light for everybody. Is a part of it, man. So,
and the reason why I ask is you think like we have so many in our community that are street pharmacists. Like, I mean, if they go to school for 5-6 years, pass the test might be hard. It might take them 2 or 3 times to pass the test. But if they put that same energy being a street pharmacist to being a legal pharmacist, they can make so much money.
Look at Jay-Z, man. I mean, just think of the principles he used and is using today from what he did as a hustler back in the day. You know what I'm saying? I mean, a billion is a billion, It's the same principles, man. I mean, who would you rather have managing your hedge fund, him or Donald Trump? I think Jay-Z could probably make Donald Trump just intrinsically has connections, and I'm not discounting his intelligence at all.
Yeah.
But I just think Jay-Z had further to go and actually went further, at the end of the day. I mean, Kanye West once said something like, Trump needs to come to me for money for his campaign. Kanye West worth $6 billion with a B. If you ask him, I believe him though. I kind of believe him. They said he's worth 2, and when he was saying I was worth 1, and they weren't giving it to him, they found out he's worth 2. So I tend to believe him. The brother's a talented brother, man. I mean, so anyway, I say all that to say that yeah, man, those brothers could easily do it, man. It's just like I say. I didn't know. They just don't know it's out there. All we know is, like you hear the saying, all we know is basketball, sports, and entertainment. But if we knew something else and saw it earlier, like with me, I was blessed, man. My mom actually pushed me to be a pharmacist, right? My dad growing up in Tallahassee, I had interactions with a lot of pharmacists. And, on top of that, we had pharmacists come out to our school when I was young and kind of mentor. So when you see it, you're like, man, that's kind of attainable. I think our kids just don't see it. Don't know other options, man,
I've been around some females that have had some really serious surgery. Right. And they're like, I don't want to take these strong medicines because I don't want to get addicted to it. Yeah. What's your advice with that? Because these women, they didn't take the whole prescription. Like, it was hard to get the Percocets and the oxycodons, the really strong medicines. Like, even the pharmacist was like, giving 10 at a time, and then you gotta go get a refill. And then if you don't use the whole thing, they give you something to keep, water the pills, and it's like a whole process. But what's your advice with, taking those strong meds, considering people are really alert and don't even I took some meds for this surgery, and they said, don't take these. You can take the Tylenol or Advil at your leisure when you feel like you want to, you don't want to take the strong stuff. So what's your advice behind that?
I agree, man. I mean, if you really think about it, most pharmacists don't like taking a lot of medicine, man. And I'm the same way. And I would advise to, I think that's probably standard protocol now. You see a lot of hospitals say, take these medications first and we'll bump you up if you need it. Now, the other side of that is a lot of African American women in particular, don't get the pain medicines they need when they actually do need it. You know what I'm saying? It's like you're more likely to be suspected to be misusing, and people are neglected in a lot of cases and don't get the medication they need. So I think they're trying to break those barriers down. But there were some studies that kind of showed that Caucasians were able to get pain medication that they really needed after surgery. And then at other times, African Americans could not. So it's two sides to it.
Yeah, I can agree to that because I've seen that happen where young ladies asking for something strong and they like, I can't give you this. And it's like, right. What do you mean? I'm only getting 10 milligrams, right. I need the strongest possible. And they can't get it. They got to go through loops and bounds and stuff to get the strongest meds. And that's just interesting to hear you say that and confirm that. That's like, wow.
The stereotype that we have as a community is that, we don't take our medications like we're supposed to. We're late to the game. So do you see that as a pharmacist where Caucasians and other nationalities are taking their medications like they're supposed to and we're not?
Not actually, man. I mean, I've seen non-compliance in a lot of different types of folk, man. Usually if you're young and active, you're probably going to be more likely to be non-compliant, Okay. If you're a football coach or, you're trying to squeeze things in between your kids, regardless of race, we see issues with that. So okay. I would say no, man. It's a lot of misnomers, I think, about African American males. I mean, I saw a study that's not related to medicine, but did you see where the CDC said African American males per capita spend more time with their kids than any other group, right?
For real?
So, yeah. CDC came out with that like a month ago. I don't even know who decided to do that study, but must have been in the Obama administration.
Facts.
But no, they said per capita, we spend more time with our kids, even if we're not in the house or whatever, whether it be football practice or whatever, we kind of try to overcompensate for the last generation in some cases. So, but I just say, that just like that, everything they say about us isn't necessarily true. Now, some things do align with socioeconomic groups, but on average, by the time you come to me, you probably have some type of insurance. If you have insurance, you're working. If you're working, you probably have a good level of education too. So,
so what happens to people who don't have insurance? Like how are they able to get, their medications and things? They get on Medicare, Medicaid?
Right. Yeah, exactly. Medicare, Medicaid, hospital charity. The hospitals do a lot of charity. On average, though, the people that really need the health care in my department are older. Like we see a lot of seniors. But we do see some younger folks that may or may not have insurance. And, some of the other agencies in town will do charity, Baptist or whatever hospital may do charity. Because you think about it, if you're in the hospital, a lot of times it's cheaper for them to pay for you to get medicine at home than to be in the hospital. Because that hospital bed on average is probably costing them about $3,000 a day.
So, wait. Bro, yeah. $3,000. What is it? What kind of Tempur-Pedic?
Yeah.
Is it a Craftmatic? Like what's going on?
Feeding, bathing, workers.
The workers, that's the big thing. So you got a nurse coming in. Everything he said, you paying the people in the cafeteria, you paying the people to clean up, what I'm saying? You paying the nurses, you paying the doctors, what I'm saying? You paying for the medication, and they probably overpricing some things too. Mm-hmm. But you're getting round the clock care. So you just think if you had to live at home and have a nurse in your house 24 hours a day, just one nurse, what I'm saying? I wasn't a math major, but that's a lot of money. That's probably you. You can do that math real quick, Mario.
I hear a lot of the sports guys talking about marijuana versus taking these shots and stuff that the doctor's recommending. And what kind of, I don't know if you have any analytics behind this or any people that have confirmed, like, I'd rather smoke than take a pill. What do you think about that? And what have you kind of heard about?
Yeah, good point, man. When the money's behind it, and now it's all of a sudden legal, so it's okay to, it's semi-legal, I guess. It's not legal federally, but a lot of states.
Oh, it is.
Yeah, it is. You can have a card. So, is a recreational? You can have a card. I know the card is almost like just saying it's legal, right? Because anybody, I know in California, Snoop Dogg has had a card for like 20 years. so I mean, if you can get a card, I guess you can get it. But yeah, so they're starting to do. So I went to a program. You have to do continuing education CEs, like y'all probably have to do in your professions. And there was a guy saying that he was saying all the benefits of of the pain, even the pain benefits of using marijuana, not so much with just regular pain, like somebody stabbing your leg, but like neuropathic pains that diabetics talk about, tingling of your feet and things like that. So yeah, man, it seems like, I mean, if I had to pick between that and an opioid, I mean, I definitely pick marijuana. Now, the thing you got to be careful with, though, it's still a gateway drug, right? I mean, I don't tell my parents, but I've been to some parties where people that had marijuana and then different stuff ended up in it, and they're like, what is he doing? You know what I'm saying? And you don't know what people, and people pass you stuff, you don't know what you smoking, So, I mean, you still have to be careful. And, I mean, we're older, so, you can go to the right spot. But our kids coming up, if the line is blurred too much and they're like, well, mama got a card, so it can't be that bad. So you got to kind of be careful how you explain that to the next generation. So.
Have y'all heard of Al Harrington? Y'all probably both heard of Al Harrington. Y'all heard about his medical dispensary with his weed brand. So his story behind it, he has a weed dispensary, marijuana dispensary, and he used to smoke a little bit when he was playing ball. But his story behind it is why he kind of got behind it is because his grandmother could not see. She had glaucoma and all these things, and she couldn't see well. And he said he came home one day and she was sitting on the edge of her bed trying to read her Bible, and she was so frustrated. She was in tears, and he was like, "Grandma, what's wrong?" And she was like, "I can't see. You won't understand." And he was just like, dang, he was like, he wanted to do something to help her. Right. And he heard that, marijuana could help certain deficiencies. So he was like, man, grandma, like, why don't you try to smoke this weed? And she like, boy, I ain't doing it. He was like, look, like, if it don't work, it's cool. Like, don't try it again. He said he gave her, I think, like a pre-roll, maybe 1 or 2 pre-rolls, left her to herself for like a day or two. He said he came back to visit her and she was sitting on the edge of the bed. 2 days later, he said she was like sitting on the edge of the bed. He's like, Grandma, what's up? You good? And she was like, wow, like I can see better. And he was like, what? He was like, really? And basically she's like, I want some more of that. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Because that helps me see. Right. And he said that got him behind his medical weed brand, which is called Viola, his grandmother's name.
Oh, wow.
And there's not a lot of people like him in the industry. Right. So he helps people. So he's in it. Of course, he had a basketball background, so he has some money and funding. So he's in it, learning about it. And so he's providing, basically, like he's the gatekeeper to helping other Black people get involved. And that's what he's been doing. So I met this Black lady that has a dispensary here in DC, and she worked really closely with him, legalizing here in DC, where all you need is a residence in DC and you can get a medical license. So I went and tried it for myself. I have a medical card in DC. All I had to do is go sign up. And she helped pass the law in DC, but she works really close with Al. And it was kind of crazy hearing her because she was telling me this story about legalizing marijuana. It's a cool story with Al and what we're doing in the medical dispensary space.
That's amazing, man. And Mike Tyson, he has a dispensary. He swears by it. He said he could make a lot of money on it, but he smokes it all up, I guess.
He's doing mushrooms and everything.
Doing shrooms and stuff.
He experienced it all.
I get confused listening to Mike. I'm like, dang, is the shrooms, are those legal? But anyway.
But I've heard the shrooms experience, it's a high like that takes you, I don't know. I've heard a couple people talk about this high. And they say, like, you see stuff, you hallucinate on another level. It's like so interesting that people do it because they want to experience that. Like some people say, like, spiritually, it brings them closer to God. And it's interesting, man. I've heard people say, but I'm like, I don't know. I ain't doing nothing that's, that sound, I don't know. Sound a little bit weird.
Yeah. The experience could be different for every, you'd be like Richard Pryor, you'd be running down the street on fire.
Because of marijuana, you think it'll be more effective, like people smoking, but I mean, eventually it's going to be pills, I imagine, right? So you think it's going to be more effective, the pill version, or you think the natural version is better because it gets to your body quicker?
Yeah, probably the natural version, I would imagine, because just like any pill, it has to travel through your first pass system, got to go through your liver, got to go through your kidney. If you're inhaling it, you're going to get the effect quicker. Now, if they have a delayed release pill at some point, maybe it could be like a longer effect. But I would say, I would think that the smoke one would be. I can't believe we talking about this.
10 years ago, you'd be like, "Hey, bro."
right. So, but it's where we are, man. But yeah, I think you're probably right, Mario.
So as a pharmacist, do you think it'll ever be legalized? I know, of course, states and federal is one thing, but you being in the industry, do you think that the medical community will push the federal government to actually legalize it, or you think that'll never happen?
It happened with alcohol, man. As soon as they figure out how they can tax it, I think they'll do it. You know what I'm saying? I believe so. There's a lot of push against alcohol and prohibition, but America makes a lot of money off alcohol and tobacco and everything else. So, I mean, I'm sure tobacco's, 1,000 times worse than marijuana as far as the long-term effects. Alcohol, people probably getting hit right now and dying right now because of drunk drivers. So, I think, I don't know why. I mean, what my brother said about Al Harrington's grandma, why have they been holding this back for so long? You know what I'm saying? I mean, it does need to be controlled in a way, but there were marijuana products like Marinol on the market for years, but they cost so much, man. You know what I'm saying? So people that were getting chemotherapy would take it to help with the nausea, right? But they couldn't afford it, so they just got regular weed. And you go in the back of where, not now, but where the old chemo building used to be, and my old partner said he used to see people just lighting up after they took the chemo or before. So I mean, why hold that from those people for that, man? It makes no sense.
Why is medicine, just in general, like, why is medicine so high? Like, you have medicine, then you have generics. Like, what's the difference? I mean, because you have like a 600, 700, 800% difference. Like, why is it so expensive?
It's a good question, man. I mean, I want to say it's probably got a lot to do with the lobby and the way things are set up. But when you make a drug, it does cost a lot of money to bring up drug to market. It can cost $1 billion to bring a drug to the market. So they give you that long patent to try to enable you to recoup that money. But that goes back to where the research comes from. If you have federally funded research and it's the government's discovery of these drugs, then you kind of control the market. And then as soon as these drugs go off patent, they go from like $300 to $20, even the IP drug. And you're like, well, what was it? Was it $300 worth of drug when it came out? And did it get worse? It don't work as good. So yeah, it's just kind of a rigged system to help them recoup their dollars. But I think through COVID, man, these people made a lot of money. I mean, the federal government was paying for everybody to get a COVID shot, right? So, I mean, that stock should be good for a while, I would think. But yeah, to answer your question, man, it's just, I think they front load a lot of that money in the research, and they that's how they explain it, is that they put a lot into the research and then they give them a chance to get their money back while it's on patent.
So to Mario's question about that generic thing, so I've been to pick up some prescription before, and they'll say, here's a generic brand because your insurance covers a larger percentage. It's the same thing. It does the same thing. It's like cheaper. So it's like they recommend that and they give you that, prescribe that. And I'm thinking like, I ain't want the knockoff. I want the real deal. But they say do the same thing. And you even see like, the allergy stuff. They say, oh, it's the same thing as Claritin. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna take this one, the same thing, right? I ain't paying 15, I pay 5. But like what kind of push the generic brand versus the official, I guess, brand?
Right. I think Medicare has something where they kind of give some type of incentive for that. Certain insurance companies do as well. And in most instances, they are. The active ingredient is the same thing. Now, where you got to be careful that some of the fillers, the dyes and some of the inert things, you could be allergic to that. If it's one thing, if it's one type of dye in the generic and a different one in the brand, you could be allergic to the generic, or you could be allergic to the brand. So, but in most cases, I think generic is a safe bet for you, man. So, but it's interesting, man. The economics behind it. I ain't smart enough to understand all of it, but like you said, it's like, it's just too much going on there. Why can't we just get one pill for everybody? I see. That's what I'm thinking too. But Coke, Pepsi, just give me one option, bro.
Okay. Were you ever purged when you was at Bethune-Cookman or FAMU?
I was not purged, but you always hear about the financial oddities in HBCUs, right? And I stood in a lot of long lines, and I may have been last to get in a class, but I was never purged from class. How about y'all? Have y'all ever been purged?
Mario would talk better than that one. I was on.
I got purged once, man. It was
Really?
It was a bad experience, but I mean, I got lucky though. Like I got purged. It's crazy because, like, when I was in school, I was in the Army Reserve, so like the military paying for my classes. Like, what are you doing here? Why you gonna kick me out? Like, my money's good. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But nah, I got purged, man. Like a half an hour waiting in line.
That's crazy.
Pissed off at the world, but we got it together though. We got it together.
Well, yeah, I've been to where they didn't let you in the class because some money didn't come in.
Right. Yeah, they ain't let you in the class.
HBCUs, they play that 3-card money, which even if you got a scholarship. Like, wait, I thought I had extra money. Well, we had to put that towards something else,
Look, when we was in school, it was an auditorium full of desks, and you had to get in your line, and you had to get your stamp validated. And so when you show up at the class, the teacher like, let me see your validation slip.
Right.
Some people just walk around campus like, man, that line was too long. They like, well, that way you can't sit in my class. And
we had the same thing, man.
You had to go stand in that line. So the validation class, and I worked at Howard about purging. So I've been used to purging since I was at TSU. Worked at Howard, and they were like, "Oh, we about to implement purging." I'm like, "Great, that should be good. Y'all ain't been doing this. Interesting." Wow. Man, when they purge these kids, they protest everything at Howard. By the way, they protest everything.
I believe it.
So they purged these kids. It was such an uproar. The president made a statement, and they did it only one semester, and it went away.
Wow.
And I said, wow, y'all coddle these kids. I said, TSU, they still purging people.
Wow.
And it's a known thing. Like, you literally know, all right, I didn't get in this class at 1:00, but some people gonna get purged, and I could probably get in at 11:00. Like, you know this.
That's crazy.
And they don't do it at Howard. They did it for one semester and it went away. And I was just like, wow, they so privileged. They don't even know.
Wow. It's like, what's that game? The Hunger Games or something, man. You know what I'm saying? With education, but they don't do that. What's the big school in DC? UDC or something like that? American University. They don't do that over there. Georgetown.
Yeah. Who had the better homecoming, fam or Bethune-Cookman?
Wow. Depending on what you're looking for, probably. Fam, you had more people, and it does have more people, so you got people come from all over the state and all over the world. Bethune is like a family environment, but it can get wild, and I know more people there when I go, just because it's less of us. So for me, I'm telling on myself, but I enjoy the Bethune homecoming just because it's a little smaller, a little more control. But now I'm gonna tell you, the fam homecoming is really nice though too. I can't. It's hard to say, bro.
How Bethune ain't like tear this beach up, man? Like, this should be like every Friday should be a party on the beach. Like, how does this not take place? Like, what is the thing with the beach and the campus? Like,
hey man, these old white people everywhere are trying to, bro. Spring break was in Daytona, when I was in school.
Yeah,
they went to like Panama City. Now I think it must be in Miami. Yeah. So the case in point, these old white people don't want y'all there. You know what I'm saying? So,
that's where you got a lock on the beach.
If you want to stay in school, you might want to just be quiet, But no, you're right though, man. It was great being close to the beach, man. We had classes where we went to the beach, man. We had this one guy, Dr. Johns, man. He was so cool. We just walk on the beach and pick up seashells in class. You know what I'm saying? It was really cool. Yeah, man. It was a great experience, man. I wouldn't trade it for the world, man, for sure.
So talk about experience. Like, what's one experience you had being at an HBCU that you use today in your career?
Man, well, brother, that I was telling you about, that roommate was roommates with my wife's dad. He said, if you don't dazzle them with your knowledge, fool them with your BS, right? And then he would say, like Bishop, he would tell this to the class. He said, y'all need to be like Holifield. He may not know what he's talking about, but he gonna act like it. You know what I'm saying? So
that's what it's about.
But the crazy thing about it is I worked for a Caucasian guy about a year ago, and he said the same thing verbatim. If you can't fool him with your knowledge. So that must be like a saying somewhere. But and it's probably not the best thing, the most wholesome thing to tell your kids, but I think at the heart of it is basically saying be confident. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Confidence goes a long way. Trust goes a long way. When people are entrusting you with your money, your finances, your medication, man, they just want to make sure that they can trust you, or that, you know, being connected to a spiritual entity kind of makes you want to be friendly with people. It teaches you to be friends, to be a good neighbor. So I mean, people value that, man. I mean, it's not that complicated, man. When you're nice to people, they kind of sometimes you can kind of de-escalate things and they'll listen to you, you know.
Fake it till you make it.
There you go.
Yeah,
there you go. And if you make it, it ain't fake no more. You know what I'm saying?
I'm telling you. Give me your top 3 best MCs all time.
Okay. Wow. I'm gonna go number 1. I'm gonna go Rakim.
Okay.
That show you how old I am. Number 2. This is my favorite one. My favorite all time is probably number 2, Big Daddy Kane.
Oh wow, okay.
And number 3, okay, I left some good people off the list. It's gonna be a three-way tie for number 3.
Right,
you can't do that. You can't do that. You can't
Right.
do that.
Right. Number 3, I'm gonna go Jay-Z, man.
Okay, I like it.
Number 3, I'm gonna go Jay-Z. And you could probably flip that but I think in a way, you kind of gotta put Big Daddy Kane ahead of Jay-Z, because if you're a rap historian, who did Jay-Z open up for when he was on tour? Big Daddy Kane. You know, he came in on Big Daddy Kane's back pretty much. And
OG.
yeah, and Big Daddy Kane was he could be a lover in some instances. But I love Big Daddy Kane because he was not too cool to dance. And if you go to his concert right now, you got Scoop Lover, you got Scrap Lover. They're gonna do this thing and follow each other and do the spin. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know. It's not just his rapping; it's his showmanship, man. And I'm gonna tell you this too. It's a guy out there that I think if it's a party, if you're doing a verses, I didn't see the verses, but Ja Rule, if you have women in the crowd, he gonna mess you up, man.
I think that's where Drake got it from. Ja Rule.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I think all Ja Rule's hooks had he had Ashanti on it, he had Jennifer Lopez on it. So because I went to a concert of his, because it was a concert, it was like Anthony Hamilton, Joe, and Ja Rule, and I was like, what's wrong with this picture, right? But I went to the concert. Ja Rule, take his shirt off. He still got that, and then he hyped the whole time, and the women are singing the whole time. And if you get the women going at the show,
have y'all seen the Murder Inc. story yet?
I haven't seen that. Man.
Amazing story. So about Ja Rule, he didn't start making those records until he was on ecstasy.
Whoa!
And he tell that. In the Irv got it tells you, he said the ecstasy drug was like syrup to the guys. Yeah. Now he said that was kind of like the thing. And so he said Ja got on ecstasy and he started making girl records. And what them girl records doing?
Yeah.
Longevity. And that's what he known for, the girl records. Like, think about it. You don't think of Ja Rule rapping, you think of the joints he was
right. So I'm not saying he's the best MC, but I'm saying that as far as showmanship, you got to give the brothers due. Gotta give the brother. No disrespect to Tupac and Biggie. I feel bad.
Yeah, no Pac, no Nas. Come on,
I know, man. I had to switch it up. They definitely my top 6, but that's a hard. But nobody ever gives Big Daddy and Rakim love, so I felt like, honestly, Rakim changed the game, man.
I hear it a lot with some OGs. They talk about Rakim a lot.
Rakim changed it. If you go back and listen to some of his lyrics now, I ain't no joke. I used to let the mic smoke, but I slam it when I'm done just to make sure it's broke. I mean, he was doing it different, man. He was doing it different, man. Do you think about when Tupac made Juice, right? Who did the soundtrack? Rakim, right?
Rakim did, yeah.
Classic movie right there, man.
Yeah, classic. Bro, so
and what was Tupac name in that movie?
Bishop.
Come on. Don't play with me.
I know your boy Dr. Dre was supposed to do an album with Rakim, man. So I think if that album ever would have came out, I think that would have gave him shine, because it would have been like a rebirth to like a newer generation. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. And another thing about Jay-Z now, so I'm riding the fence, but did you hear, when first of all, he got the brothers on at the Super Bowl, right? I mean, that's how you bring
everybody was waiting on that. Everybody like, all right, when you gonna have an all-black Super Bowl? When it's coming?
Yeah, so he's like really running NFL now, or part. He has a seat at the table, no doubt, right? Mm-hmm. But as a result of that, I did not know that on that song, with the Lex episode with Dr. Dre and Snoop,
Yeah.
I didn't know Jay-Z wrote all of their lyrics. I knew he used to probably ghostwrite for Dr. Dre, but he also wrote Snoop's lyrics. And Snoop said, like, he was like, I mean, that's what shocked me that Snoop admitted it. Because Jay-Z never, he ain't never say it. That might have been contractual. But Snoop was like, yeah, man, he made it sound like something we would say. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, that's artwork. Jada Kiss did the same thing for Puffy a lot of times. I think he ghost wrote for, not that Puffy had no profound lyrics, but.
We are in this era seeing all this greatness. LeBron James, Jay-Z still doing it at 50.
Right.
We seeing all this stuff. Tom Brady, damn near, I don't know, him and his wife had it because he still want to play football.
Right. Serena.
Witnessing all this stuff, man. Like it's crazy, man. We saw Kobe hit 60 on his way out, you know.
Last game, yeah.
We get to see this stuff, man. And, you know, I don't know if kids going to appreciate it, man, but like we watching greatness, you know.
Yeah, man. And shout out to Kobe, man. That's just so sad, man. I thought about that. I just think about that all the time, man. That was one of those things that you knew where you were, what you were doing.
Yeah.
You know, when it happened. It was kind of like me. I remember where I was when Michael Jordan's dad died. You know, my mom came in the room. It was like, yeah, they found MJ's dad. You know, it's just certain things you're like, man. And his daughter and the other people, man.
Sad story. I have a story about Kobe. So I ain't like Kobe. I was a Kobe.
Understand.
I like LeBron James. So I'm like, I see Kobe, you know, his last season, he kind of hurt, he a little gimpy. And I'm like, I'm going to watch his last game. And it's an LA game, so it's on like here, like 11:30. I'm in bed trying to stay up.
Right.
And Kobe got about, 25 at the half.
Right.
And they interviewed Shaq, and Shaq was like, yeah, I told him to go for 50. And, we'll see what he's going to do. I'm like, 50? I'm like, all right, he halfway there. Fourth quarter, Kobe go crazy. He literally ball hogging this one. He's shooting on 2-3 people. So I sit with my bed. I'm like, he about to go for it. Hold on. So he's shooting everything. I'm like, oh, this about to happen.
Yeah.
And it scored 60. And Shaq said at the funeral, he said, man, I told that man, go score 50. He basically threw a slap to me, to Shaq, like, nigga, I'm going to score 60 on the way out. And I literally got up out my bed and was like,
yeah,
because other people would have been, passing the ball, taking it light on that day. Kobe went hard on his way out, and just thinking about that was he left it on the floor, man. That's how I remember Kobe. You know what I'm saying? Like he went out like that, and I'm like, man, that's the way you play your last game. Like give it your all, go out. And I mean, I was just like at all. So that's my last memory of Kobe. Yeah, and I'm glad I have that memory, and it's a cool story. I like to share that. That was dope.
Man, and it relates to exactly what we're talking about, man. Because if you think about it, when I was coming up, the elders used to always say, you got to be a little better. You got to work a lot harder. You got to be 10 times better than them, right? Mm-hmm. And Kobe epitomized that, man. I mean, he always felt like somebody was chasing him. Mm-hmm. And Mike did too, man. Just that endless pursuit of greatness, man. And I mean, if you think about it, you probably know a guy like that, Mario was kind of like that, you know what I'm saying? My dad was like that, man. You have some men that just like, they don't stop because they're not thinking about themselves in the here and now. They're thinking about the future. They think about, like the Bible says, a wise man leaves a good inheritance, man. It's not about what you do for yourself, it's what you leave for your kids.
Man, Mario studying for his exam, man, homecoming Friday in my car, and I'm like, dude, I'm trying to drink and go to this party. He's like, hold on, I'm gotta study. And look where he is today, man. I'm like, damn, I should have put the car in park and said, let me take the test with you.
Hey, man. So, hey, man, he's a heck of a dude, man. But I'll say this: he ain't got no clothing line, though. You know what I'm saying?
Facts.
Speaking of clothing, man,
so
go to boutique316.com, man. Support my wife, man. You know what I'm saying? Go to her website, man. Wonderful couture apparel.
So y'all, I appreciate it, man. Had a great conversation, man, with a black pharmacist using it every day with his own clothing line with him and his wife. So it makes it even better from a business standpoint. So Bishop, thanks for your time. Again, Ourculturehbcu. HBCU stands for Homecoming, brings culture and unity, man. And he went to 2 of them, FAMU and BCU. So it works out even better. But we went to TSU, so I'm so glad I went to TSU. Everybody, peace, support your HBCUs.